All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Couch Experts podcast. This is episode 4. We are going to be recapping Utah and talking a little bit about Colorado and all the other happenings of Wyoming Cowboys sports. Welcome back, Jamari. I am your co-host, Zane Alley, here again with my co-host, Jamari Moore. Tell me about your week, buddy. What all do you have going on?
Very busy week at work. This past week was our homecoming week at John F. Kennedy High School. So by the time this aired, we'd been almost a week out from our cookout. But a lot of planning, a lot of coordinations. It was pretty insane. It was early in the year, and there was a lot of obstacles that came our way, but we ended up having a good finish to the week. Great homecoming dance. It was a lot of fun. I'm extremely tired from it, but now we can move on to some other stuff. So that was pretty much my week. It's been insane. But what about you, Zane?
I didn't have much going on. Another busy week, another week at school. Other than that, not a lot going on. Just doing homework. Got to watch a lot of football, and just hanging out. Kept it nice and no busier than usual. We'll jump right into this week. We played Utah. This was the 84th meeting between Wyoming and Utah. Our first game since 2010. This is a series that dates back all the way to 1904. Obviously, gut reactions. Where's your mind at as far as kind of how this game went and overall, what were your thoughts?
Frustrating. That's the biggest word that I would give. It's just really frustrating, man, because I feel like there's flashes, we're close. There's a lot of opportunities that we have that we create, but we're not capitalizing on our opportunities. There's a ton of missed opportunities, especially when other teams make mistakes. We were in that game, especially in the first half. So it's frustrating because we're so close, but we're just not hitting the mark where we need to. So that's probably my initial reaction is frustration, because it's not the fact that we can't do it. It's just we got to capitalize on those opportunities, and we're just not hitting the mark right now.
Yeah, I think that's completely valid. I'm right there with you. The first half, we're going to get into it a little bit, but the first half, we were right there. We were forcing Utah to really not play their brand of football. We forced them to play our brand, and ultimately we couldn't capitalize on all of the opportunities we gave ourselves. And I do think we let one slip away. So frustrated is definitely a really good word. Let's jump into the offense. We obviously, or I guess I should say lack thereof of offense this week. We did have some highlights. We got to see some good things, but I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on the offense as a whole, Jamari, and maybe anything that you saw.
Line of scrimmage. They control the line of scrimmage. Not much push. To me, I felt like we're the more physical team. A little bit of a size difference, but I think the biggest thing was physicality. They just were able to control the line of scrimmage. Kudos to the defense, at least in the first half, because despite all of those things, we were able to still limit their scoring, kept them 3 points at half. I mean, line of scrimmage, man, I think that's where it starts. I know past couple weeks we've seen penalties. I just think at this point, we just couldn't get anything going. And if we can't get anything at the start at the line of scrimmage, it's only so much you can do, right? I mean, running the ball opens up the pass, and then it allows the defense to kind of have to stay honest and play both. But when you can't really move the ball as much on the ground or in the air. I mean, it makes it pretty easy to defend. So I think that would be the frustrating part for me, because I felt like in the past couple of games, the line has been maybe a stronger point, but maybe this game also is good to expose that is an area that we still need to work on, is at the line of scrimmage. But what do you think about that?
I think there was a lot of things. I think line of scrimmage is definitely a something that we got to talk about, right? Obviously, there was a constant harassment of the quarterback. We were constantly in positions where we were going 3 and out. This defense. I remember texting you during the game, and I said, "Hey, they just had a 17-play drive, and we got the ball back and instantly went 3 and out." that right there is just, it's never going to work. Caden Anderson, he went 12 of 23 for 108 yards and a pick. Samuel Toad Harris, that kid was everywhere. He had 68
Mm-hmm.
rushing yards on eight rushes. He also had
Mm-hmm.
37 receiving yards on 3 catches.
Yeah.
Chris Durr had 5 catches for 40 yards. Really,
Mm-hmm.
I think Sam Harris and Chris Durr, they both had fantastic games, but ultimately it just wasn't enough. We couldn't piece enough good things together for it to really mean anything. I
Mm-hmm.
know, Sam uh, had some really, really big moments. Caden Anderson had a quote at the end of the game: "I put the loss on myself. I missed throws, timing was off, but we'll be better." I think it ultimately comes down to that. We were 1 of 6 on third down. We couldn't score in the red zone. We shot ourselves in the foot with turnovers. It just, overall, it wasn't a fun offensive game.
No, and then when you have the offense, especially on third down, just going three and out repeatedly, we then now go away from something we like to call complementary football. That is where the offense is also serving the defense is serving the offense, special teams is serving both. When you're able to do good in one area, that's helping the other one out. And so as the offense is getting these three and outs, that's taking away from quality rest, coaching that's happening on the sideline for the defense, and that's only going to tire those guys out. So I think that people also have to understand that it all goes together. And when you have this situation where you come off, you have a stop, three and out on defense, you get to the sideline, you're trying to get water, you're trying to listen to your coach on adjustments, and then boom, you got to go right back up for either turnover or just a quick three and out. I mean, that's just not going to help the other aspects of the game. So I think they definitely need to work on converting and just staying on the field longer, man. I mean, like we pride ourselves on being able to control the game, possession, time of possession. So I think that's going to be something that they need to address is how do we just stay on the field and give the defense time to rest?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it ultimately comes down to that. The defense kept us in the first half. I mean, if you look at the stats, it doesn't show it near as well. Utah piled up 272 first half yards total. I believe Wyoming had 78 or something like that. It really wasn't pretty, but we were still in it. It was 3-0 at the end of the first half. We were by no means out of this game. Utah was
Mhm.
really trying to keep us in the game, but we just couldn't get it done. I know Coach Saville, he said to win the game, we had to be plus in turnovers. We weren't. We had to win conversion downs, and we didn't. And I know you said last week, one of your keys to the game, we've got to win that turnover margin. We've got to hold them under 17. The defense did that in the first half, but obviously by the third quarter, it just was too much. They had another 20 play drive on offense where uh, they gave the ball back to us. We went three and out, and the defense went right back out there. It just overwhelmed the defense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that also comes with the physicality and them just being worn out. Um, like I said earlier, in the first half, we're able to keep up, able to hold them. And you have to remember, this is a top 20 team, right? This is a top 20
Yep.
team. And so that says something, right? Like there's some optimism in that. But again, like it's 4 quarters. And at some point, that physicality and just being on the field constantly is going to take away from your performance. So I think that um that's something that is going to expose a little bit and hopefully give the guys encouragement on something to work on because I mean that's some good competition. I think that those guys want to be able to be in those situations to play against that. So I think that's going to be something that they need to really think about moving forward is hey, what small things that we can control that we can apply to the next game. And I think being physical, effort, energy, that's going to be something that needs to be sustained. And it's hard, honestly, man. Like when you lose momentum or things aren't going your way, it really is hard to have that same amount of energy, that same amount of focus. Because at some point, as fans feel it, the players feel it too. They feel that mood or energy shift. And you got to be able to fight against it. You got to be able to fight against it. You know, being at home, you think that'd be a little helpful. And I think it was, but it just has to be a full game effort, just a full game effort overall.
No, I agree, and I think one thing that I get it. Fans are going to be frustrated. We're frustrated, obviously, as fans. At the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. This is a top 20 team. Odds are they're going to move up. That defense, the depth that they have, the rotation they had on that defensive line, they've got a number of guys that are going to go to the league, in my opinion. Daly, number 90, he harassed Caden Anderson what felt like on every single drop back. And I mean, he was in shotgun 90% of the time, but even
Hmm.
when he was under center, he was in or around the ball at all times. So,
Yeah.
again, no moral victories, but this is a top 20 defense. This is a team that, in my opinion, has strong aspirations of making the college football playoff. And based on what I saw, uh, that third and fourth quarter, they really showed it. They really showed it. So there were some things to like there. Let's jump into the defense, man. We've got a little bit, a little bit more things to highlight on the defense side of the ball. Obviously, a ton of guys got some good tackles. They played extremely strong for, I would say, 2.5 quarters, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
less, but
Yeah.
the first half itself was phenomenal. We were in that game all
Hmm.
throughout. Guys were flying to the ball. They were being disruptive. They were getting pressure on what is arguably one of the best mobile quarterbacks we've seen in back-to-back years in Devin Dampier.
Hmm.
What did you see from the defense, obviously, with your experience on that side?
A lot of good tackling, some tackles for loss. Shout out again to Andrew Johnson. That's my guy. He had a really good game tackling wise. I think he was the one who got a fumble recovery as well. Being able to block a field goal, creating those extra opportunities. I think that is again like complementary football, right? Them putting an offense in an opportunity or a situation to shift the momentum. I think they did a good job of finding as many as those opportunities as possible. Um, that's something that I think is going to be key for them to like continue to build off of. Like you said, guys are rallying to the football, flying around. Uh, and it's multiple guys. I think that's the also a highlight and speaks to the culture of the team. What you're starting to see is that there's multiple guys that are showing up each and every week. There's some guys that are consistent. I know Ben. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right. Is it Florentine? How do you pronounce his name?
Florentine.
Florentine. Ben
Yep.
Florentine, yeah. So he's been pretty productive in all three games, being able to get home a little bit on some pressure. So I think that there's a mentality, there's an edge that the defense is playing with. I think now we just have to make sure it's sustainable. But I think the biggest thing that was really encouraging to see was that they were able to just create extra opportunities with the flying around, with getting them off the field, with the fumble recovery. I think just creating opportunities is really big when it comes to these type of teams.
Yeah, 1000%. And again, Evan Eller, he had 12 tackles, a tackle for loss. Andrew Johnson, 12 tackles, a fumble recovery. Desmond Hearns, 8 tackles. Jones Thomas, 8 tackles. Braden Wilson, 4 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. At the end of the day, they had 87 plays of offense, is what Jay Saville said. 87
Hmm.
plays of offense. They played their hearts out, but it comes to a point where that's just insurmountable. Shout out those guys. They played lights out. And shout out, again, uh, no moral victories, but shout out that offensive line because our offensive line, because this really is the top 10 defense in my opinion, top 15 at least. And so it's definitely no easy feat to do. What I wanted to say is that this was a quote from Eller. He says, "This loss hurts because I know what we're capable of. First half we
Hmm.
matched them, but second half we didn't play our best." Do you
Hmm.
believe, kind of transitioning from this game, but just moving forward for the rest of the Wyoming Cowboy season, do you think it is sustainable for us to match the level that we did against Utah, or was that kind of the momentum of the game, the atmosphere of the game, and things like
That's a good question. I really do believe that we do have the ability to play our brand of football and play at a high level. I think in some of even just the post game interviews that I've been listening to for the past couple of weeks, you can tell that a lot of these players are mature. And I think
Very.
when you have mature leaders on the team and that speaks to the culture, that's something that is going to be an intangible asset throughout the season. Because when you don't have a mature team and you let a loss like that happen, it's hard to recover. And you need a certain type of maturity going forward. So I really think that, to be honest, this is going to possibly give us a spark to let them know, hey, we can compete with teams, but we have to execute and we have to demand much better on execution wise moving forward down the stretch.
I agree. I agree. And one thing they've covered this. If you follow Cody Tucker on
Yeah.
7220 Sports or any of the Wyoming beat writers, they talk about it all the time. Uh, Evan Eller is a guy that transferred in, if I'm not mistaken. But our defense is filled with guys that transferred in that have a lot of experience and have
Hmm.
been able to use it to their advantage on this team. But it also helps out with our young guys. Jaden Williams, number 98, I know he went
Hmm.
down. He's a sophomore out of Texas. He was
Right.
contributing, but we have a lot of young guys on this defensive side of the ball that are able to learn from veteran presence or guys that are really contributing, like Florentine, and being able to take it moving forward. At least, if nothing else, it's always a learning experience, right?
Hmm.
Big picture takeaway moving forward for the rest of the season, and I kind of want to keep on with the same thing we were just talking about. Tote Harris is a true freshman.
Hmm.
Uh, Caden Anderson is a sophomore. Chris
Hmm.
Durr is a sophomore. On the offensive side of the ball, outside of John Michael Gillenborg, who went down with injury, we really are a young team moving forward. I think what fans got frustrated with was a younger offensive side of the ball versus a veteran defense. And I think
Hmm.
that we kind of need to remember that as we proceed, even into Colorado, that the offensive side of the ball is younger. We do have a veteran offensive line, but as far as skill position goes, it's are going to see a certain level of mistakes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, when you have a young team or young players, that's inevitable. You you'll see players that are younger that are just on point with everything, but when you just have a younger side of the ball or younger team in general, that it's bound to have a couple of hiccups there, here and there. But I think that's where the coaching staff comes in, right? In the culture that you set. Because if you're putting somebody out there, then it's assumed that they're not going to make as many mistakes, right? So that's a thing that I put a lot of responsibility on with the coaches as well, putting young players out there. So I think that in that as well, if you think long term, being able to develop guys and build rapport with guys to keep them also on the team is going to be really important. I think with a lot of the changes with the league, man, and all of the rules with NIL and transfer portal, it becomes tricky, right? It becomes very tricky to see kids develop and then keep them there. So that's always something that I think about and worry about is when guys do start to come into themselves and start to figure it out and then they go. I don't know if that was something that you thought about as well when it comes to younger players and them starting to develop.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. This is Wyoming. This is NIL. We talked about it on our even week one. You look at a guy like Samuel Tote Harris, who, to me, that guy's just a spark plug, right? The second he touches the ball, he is whether it's he's going in between the guards or if he's going outside the tackles, that dude
Mhm.
can run. He was a highly touted prospect until he tore his ACL, and I think he's more than proven that he is still a highly touted prospect. So I do get a little nervous with a guy like Tote Harris. I really don't want to see him hit the transfer portal, but at the end of the day, NIL is here to stay. College football has completely transformed. I think we've got to. It comes up to the team. It comes up to the coaching staff to prove to him that Wyoming is a longevity place for him and not just a stepping stone. So that's kind of where my mentality goes with younger guys. Obviously, we had guys that stayed put. John Michael Gillenborg, he had, as far as I know, Cody Tucker of 7220 Sports said this, six-figure offers to go play elsewhere. and he decided to stay at Wyoming and finish out his senior year. And we had several offensive linemen that received similar offers. And you played for Wyoming. I believe it is a culture that can prove to young players, hey, you may not get $2 million to be a backup here, but we can develop you. We can turn you into an NFL style prospect. So I think that's something that has to be considered. Would you agree with that, Jamari?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen stories like that before where there's players that's going to stay at a respective school, whether it's culture, they like the coach, the environment, they want to finish out their degree. So I've definitely seen a lot of stories like that where that's possible. And definitely with Wyoming, the culture they have there, I can definitely see people wanting to finish out their time there. And that's something you kind of rely on. You kind of rely heavily on just not just you rely heavily on the people, right? I think that's something that's really important to
Mm-hmm.
remember because we kind of had a good understanding coming in before all of this that college football is a business at the end of the day. But with Wyoming in the community, you really feel like are really a part of it and it feels a little bit less like a business. So I definitely can see that and understand that people generally love the fans, they love the school, they love the community. And I think that's something that will continue to be somewhat of a help to compete with some of these other crazy offers, man. I mean, you said 6 figures for a backup is insane.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh yeah.
wild.
I've heard a couple of stories. I don't have any off the top of my head, but guys receiving 7 figure offers just to sit behind people. And those are backup left tackles or those are backup quarterbacks. Now I don't know how truthful those articles were, obviously, but it just makes you think that the realm of sports that we're in now, even from a decade ago, is completely different. Overall, Jamari, I think the team showed a lot of effort and flashes of capability, but execution just wasn't there. I think Jay Savelle said it best. He said, "We will become a better football team because of playing Utah. Now we have to prove it." I think that's true for both the coaching staff. I think that's true for the players. I think that's true for everybody. When you go into, or not even go into, when you play a team like Utah, even in a friendly atmosphere like Laramie is in the fall, I think there's still a lot of good that you can take away.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. It's always good to measure yourself with really good opponents. And I just think that it might be a wake up call to some of the guys, right? Because when you look at the first 2 games, we're like, okay, we're feeling pretty good. Then you have this game where maybe it exposes things earlier in the season, right? I think the timing is more important than anything, right? You don't want to have any false confidence in certain things or being able to get away with certain things later in the season, especially when you're deeper into conference play. So I think that being able to have this kind of wake up call earlier in the season is going to be really important because they have time to adjust. They'll be able to still have a lot of the season and a lot to play for moving forward, especially when they, again, get back into conference play because those conference games are really the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, last week was a big week against a top 20 ranked Utah team. This week we have Colorado. And then next week, if I'm not mistaken, we start with UNLV in conference play. So we have 3 tough games here. It's a midseason stretch that is definitely going to test us. We're either going to get better or we're not. And that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Jamari, Utah is a team that prides itself on its physicality, and Wyoming does the same thing. They pride themselves on being physical at both lines, and they pride themselves on being physical just in general, whether that's tackling or even angry runs, to steal the NFL expression. Do you believe that we got out physicality by Utah?
Yeah, 100%. Coach Bowl, he used to have these crazy sayings during halftime, man. He'll say something like, "Man, there's 2 hungry dogs, 1 piece of meat." He'll say things like, "Hey, somebody's sword is gonna get broken. It sure as hell not better not be us." Like, but it's real though, right? Like, these are young, these are big, young, some grown men, some guys have been playing for a long time. it's no joke. It is no joke when it comes to physicality. And that really makes a huge difference from a physical and psychological standpoint. And when you think about, there's no disrespect to some of the other teams that we played, but it's a higher level of competition. One of the first games that I remember feeling that level of like, oh wow, was I was on a kickoff return in 2018, and it was, I believe, against Oregon in Laramie. I don't know if you were able to go to that game, but it was,
Right behind me.
so
Yep.
is that the game right there?
That's the
That's the
game right
game.
there.
I was
That's
looking at that. I was like, I
Wyoming
wonder what that
versus
is.
Oregon. Yep.
Yes, so that's crazy. Yes, so at that game that's behind you, I remember, as all you hear about is the speed. You think you hear Oregon, you know how they usually have some really fast players, and that's a lot that we've been talking about in our film study around that time. And so I remember looking across the line, I'm like, man, okay, these guys are a little bigger than I thought. But okay, no problem. And I go back and just remember just getting popped by this one kid. I don't even remember his name. And I just remember like at that point in time, because you got to think my first season actually playing, because I redshirted in 2016. So 2017 was my first year actually playing. I played in Iowa, stuff like that. But up until that point, that was probably the hardest I remember being hit. And I was like, wow, that actually, I was like, that hurt. Okay, okay. Like they're bringing it. So now, so what happens in that moment is that you kind of have two options. It's either A, all right, this is out of my league, or B, I have to bring some more to the party. I gotta bring a little bit more. I gotta bring a little extra punch. So I'm like, all right, we gotta bring a little extra punch, but and you adapt and get used to it at some point, but that's just one person, right? Some people check out, some people are like trying to bring it, but maybe they can't. But I say that to say, just from experience, that you feel the difference right away. And what I appreciate about the team response is that, hey, they're still competing and they're still being physical, right? It's not like we laid down or we just gave up right away. I watched my favorite football team. It looks like what it looks like, the Bears. It looked like they gave up against the Lions this past weekend, man. But I know they'll figure it out. But again, I felt like we didn't let them being physical as well stop us from playing our brand. I just think we just didn't execute. So overall, big picture, I think we can't, like, we're a good team and we can compete with the best of them, but we have to make sure that we're capitalizing on every opportunity, because those good teams, the better the team, the smaller margin of error becomes. So I think that's just my overall takeaway. I don't know how you felt about the physicality.
Physicality, I think we came out really well. But then Coach Sawvell brought it up a couple of times in his post game press conference. He said he brought up one wheel route like 3 times, 4 times, where the defensive back, I don't even know his name. It's not even worth bringing his name up because obviously there was a lot of mistakes that were made. I don't want to point anybody out, but defensive back just missed a wheel route and cost him. I want to say they had him in a 3rd and long and gave him a first down. 2 plays later, they
Yeah,
were in the end zone, and that's kind of what opened the floodgates there in the 3rd quarter.
blood in the
I think
water.
ultimately, blood in the water. I think it ultimately came down to a little bit of fight or flight. I think some of the defense just, 87 plays on offense that's a lot to ask guys to be physical for, especially when the offense goes 3 and out. It's you get winded, but like you said, it's fight or flight. Are you going to try to drag out more? Or are you going to try to let it go? Let's jump into Colorado. We are heading to Folsom Field, Boulder, Colorado. This is going to be a sold out crowd. I believe it's at 8:15. It might be at 8. This is going to be a really cool atmosphere. Fans, if you've never seen the Colorado Stadium, Folsom Field, it's a really unique stadium. The way the stands are set up, it's very vertical. They can get a lot of noise in there, especially in a night game. I think it's going to be really electric. As far as Colorado goes, they have had a couple of issues with their quarterback. They went to a new quarterback this last week named Staub. He ended up having 3 touchdowns and 2 picks through 2 games. Excuse me, they went to him 2 games ago. 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. They do have a running back averaging 7.1 yards per carry. His name is Simeon Price. Receiving core is led by Sincere Brown. He currently has 135 yards. But ultimately, this is not the offense out of Colorado that we are used to. This is not the Colorado offense led by Shadur Sanders. Jamari, what are your thoughts on Colorado just as a whole? What have you seen from them? And jump into your kind of what Wyoming would need to do to get a win in this one against them, your key to the game.
One of the biggest things that I've noticed just looking into Colorado is that they're not the strongest against the run, which we can really gratefully benefit from. They're not as strong as, or excuse me, run defense, right? Stopping the run. And so that is something that we want to do. We want to be able to make sure that we're able to establish and control the line of scrimmage. When they're able to do that, that opens up the pass, makes things a lot easier for Anderson and being able to take advantage of that. Obviously, you have a lot of sold out crowds or a lot of fans that are excited. The prime effect, I think, is what people are calling it. Somebody can correct me if that's not, but that's something that with younger players, I'm hoping that the lights aren't too bright because you can also see a little bit of that as well. Now, with Colorado specifically, going back to just some of the stuff that they do, we might be able to get some stuff downfield, take some shots as well. I think they will try to tighten up on the run, and then that's where we can be able to take advantage of that. So I think strategically and from a coaching standpoint, we need to be able to see how they adjust to the run. And if they heavily sell out on the run, then that's we'll be able to take some shots and then we'll be able to convert. And I think we have plenty of guys that we can send out on that, being able to do that. I think that it will be probably it's kind of hard to tell. I think that they will get theirs, right? Like you said, Price is going to be somebody that's really tough. We're going to have to gang tackle. We're going to have to make sure we get bodies on them and get off blocks. I do think they'll get theirs. I do think they'll have a little success, but I think if we're able to turn the ball over when they're passing, force them into a running situation where we'll be able to basically say, hey, if one guy's going to have to beat us, right? Because what's going to happen in those situations when you just kind of have one person you depend on, when you stop that person, there's nothing else you can really do. So we have to make sure we're disciplined in all these other areas so that they don't try to, and hopefully y'all can stay with me so this makes sense. If somebody knows that there's a key star player on the team, they obviously know that teams are going to key in on them. And so they use that as an opportunity to get other people open, or they use that as an opportunity to take shots and get opportunities to other people that is not game plan for. I hope that makes sense. So we have to be able to make sure that we're playing it honest where they really are just dependent on their run, because then schematically that's just an easy thing to dial up to dial up and contain, because you can just add more people to the box depending on what personnel you have. It's really easy to adjust for that when you know what they're going to do. So that's kind of where my head goes when I think of Colorado. But again, the execution in that environment and just the whole prime effect, I don't know how they'll do with that. But I think they're mature enough to handle it. But you never know.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think lean on that maturity, definitely get the run game going. Obviously, we have Toad Harris, we have Kelman, we have Sam Scott. All three of those guys have gotten really effective touches. The key to the game that I'm going to go with, I'm going to actually put this back on Wyoming. We've really struggled on third down defensively. That's one thing that our defense could do a little bit better job of, and I think they're going to have to do a little bit better job of when it comes to playing Colorado. We do a really good job on first and second down, putting people into tough positions, but then they kind of get away with it, especially in that Utah game. Which, don't get me wrong, Staub is not Devin Dampier. Devin Dampier is a magician after what I saw that game last night. That was insane. Putting them in a tough position and then holding their feet to the fire and not letting them out of it is something. I think if we can do that, if we can make them stay in difficult positions and force them to punt, like you said, getting those sudden changes in momentum, putting Wyoming in a position to succeed in better field position, obviously that's going to help out with everything. Anything else you want to add before we jump over to around the Mountain West about Colorado, Jamar?
Just shout out to everybody that's going to the game. It's sold out. It's hard for me to try to get a ticket, but shout out to everybody that's going to the game. I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of Wyoming fans there. So I think that's something that is also important to consider, is that a lot of Wyoming fans are going to be there as well. So that's something that I look forward to seeing. So I just hope that those of you who are going to the game that's pulling up, make sure y'all show out. Um, and really support those boys, because they're gonna need it. It's a hostile environment for sure.
Yeah, this really is a winnable game, and I think if Wyoming travels well, uh, Colorado's coming off a loss to Houston. We're coming off a loss to Utah. I think we both have something to prove, and I think we both got a chance to do it. All right, Jamari, let's jump over here to Around the Mountain West. Fans, this is where I throw all the games up for the week up on the screen. I've got one keyed up for me, Jamari, but I want to know, what Mountain West game are you looking forward to the most? Obviously, I think if we both had to pick, even if I wasn't a Wyoming fan, if you weren't a Wyoming fan, I think probably the most interesting one this week is Wyoming versus Colorado. Obviously, we're not going to let ourselves do that, so let's go with one apiece, and tell me a little bit about a game you're looking forward to this week.
Excuse me. Yeah, one of the games that I'm looking forward to this week, I would have to say, is Boise and Air Force. That's a pretty big matchup. Uh, I mean, I look at, well, one, I mean, Big Mountain West matchup, right? So I think that's going to be something that we need to pay attention to. As a player, we are always looking at the Mountain West matchups, and you're looking at people in your division and people you play, and you want to be able to make sure you size them up. And also you kind of look at contentions for conference play, or excuse me, contentions for conference championship opportunities. What I found is that, it only takes one loss to a specific team in conference to take away any chances. You could also beat every team by a certain amount of points, but if there's another team that has a better record or better track. Like, there's a lot of small differences that are small aspects of playing that can really make or break your season or hopes for a conference championship. So I'm always really looking at those type of games, and I think that's going to be a big one. And just as a player, we've always done a lot of Air Force prep. So it's always interesting to see what they're doing with the triple option. I think they've done an excellent job of just running it in so many different ways that trips people up. So I'm always interested to see how a team like Boise State, that's typically a disciplined team, match up against them, especially them being really strong defensively. So that's going to be a game that I'm going to pay attention to this week.
Yeah, and it'll also be interesting, Boise coming off of a bye week. Obviously, they started out 1-1, not quite the start they were hoping for, hoping to be 2-0 right now. Uh, did go ahead and get a convincing win against Eastern Washington right before their bye week. So hopefully, I hope it's an interesting game. The one I'm going to go with, I'm going to go Cal versus San Diego State. Cal right now, they're 3-0. They're coming off a convincing win against Minnesota. They've got really good passing numbers. They've got good run support. San Diego State also 1-1. They played really well against Stony Brook, and then they lost to Washington State 36-13. I think overall this is going to be a really interesting game. They are at home in San Diego. Right now, betting consensus, the spread is at 13.5, favored towards Cal. I think it'll be a little bit closer with it being at San Diego State. And San Diego State is traditionally, as far as your and I's involvement in the Mountain West Conference, have always been a pretty disciplined team. I'd like them to be a little bit closer. I'm going to go with 28-20. Something along those lines. I think it'll be a little bit closer. From there, let's jump over to couch question of the week, Jamari. It was your turn, and then I do have a fan question of the week that I want to throw at you, and we can both go ahead and answer that.
All right, so here's the couch question of the week for me. Zane, if you are a recruiter for Wyoming football and you have a five-star recruit, I don't know, you could pick the position, D end, right? A D tackle or something, offensive lineman, quarterback, doesn't matter. But you got a five-star recruit. What is going to be your pitch? What is like your starting pitch to get this guy to come to Wyoming?
As far as I know, Wyoming has never had a 5-star recruit. So I am just selling all out on that aspect right there as a good thing and not a bad thing. So I'm trying to pitch to them, hey, we've never had a 5-star recruit, but we've had legendary players come out of Wyoming. MVP of the league, Josh Allen, came to Wyoming. We still have that lineage here, that culture is here. We could turn you into something special. We did that with a no-star JUCO kid. Imagine what we can do with a 5-star like you. I think I'd lean into that, and then I don't know. I'd be calling every business in Wyoming and saying, "Hey, this guy, he's going to need a truck." A lot of 5-stars come from Texas, California, places like that. So we're going to say, let's get him some 4-wheel drive. See if we can get them all the NIL we can. But I think that's the pitch I would have to lean on. What are your thoughts about it, Jamari?
Man, I think recruiting is so different now than what it used to be. So obviously, it's going to be very competitive for a five-star. It would have to be like an all-in community type of deal. Like, hey, we have
Yeah.
to go all in, get the Boosters Alumni Association, all of them on the phone, and we're like, hey, we have to put all the chips on the table to secure this recruit. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the route you have to go, right? It's a part of it is like, man, why? Like, cause now it's gonna be pretty like political, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of politics that go into it that might be away from just the game itself. Because there's people that are now signing with like conditions, right? Like, hey, I'm coming to this school on a condition. Not only do I get paid, but I'm gonna start, right? So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
in an ideal world, you want them to earn it. You want them to earn that opportunity, but it would have to definitely be like an all in, like their visit has to be like extravagant as best as you can in Wyoming.
Well, let me get your opinion on this. This is something I have said for a while. I believe college football should transition to the European soccer method. And what I mean by that is players should have to you sign a contract, a quote unquote, the transfer portal is not gone, but let's use Chris Durr, somebody whose NIL value is growing, growing, growing. Let's say at the end of this year, Chris Durr is worth $750,000 and Alabama wants to sign him, him to transfer there. Wyoming can't say no, Chris Durr can't go with his contract, but they could say, okay, that's fine, but you owe us 60% of his NIL value.
Oh
So
wow.
not only does the player get paid, but now the university is getting paid. That allows the university to go out to North Dakota State or Montana State, and they now have $400,000 in their pocket to say, all right, North Dakota State, your guy's worth $100,000. Here's $80,000 or $60,000. We'll take him and we're going to pay him. That's kind of how European soccer does it. I think that's my little tangent there. I think that a variation of that could work
Hmm.
in college football to a certain extent.
I'll have to think through that one. I never really thought about it in that way, but it would at least help provide maybe a little bit more parity throughout the NCAA. So I feel like that might have an opportunity. I'll have to think more deeply about that one.
I was going to say, you get a guy like Josh Allen. They were saying this on the Roaring Repeater podcast last week. Quarterback starters are worth about $5 million. Left tackles are worth about $1 to $2 million. Or running backs worth about $700,000. So you think about Wyoming's athletics budget with Josh Allen. We transfer him for a fee of a couple $1 million. That's the whole athletics budget for certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're able to finance a lot for a smaller program versus
Hmm.
Alabama or wherever. It's a drop in the hat for them.
Right, right.
Um, we digress. That's our tangent there. Overall, Jamari, I do have a fan question I wanted to ask you really quick before we kind of recap. Shout out to Hannah. She is my old boss in athletics. So big Alabama football fan, but also a big University of Wyoming fan. She said, who's the bigger asset on defense? Is it the secondary or is it the pass rush?
Pass rush. Pass rush is the bigger asset because at the end of the day, it starts with the pass rush. And the pass rush is helping make life easier for the coverage behind, not the other way around. So you want to be able to make sure that the pass rush is good enough to make sure that people can cover long enough. I mean, every once in a while you get a coverage sack, but that would mean you're covering extremely well for a long time where people eventually can get open to a sack, but you rarely see it that way as often as the other way around where a pass rush gets home or pass rush is leading to an interception. I think with the back end, you can help with some disguising maybe and leading to a bad decision, but the pass rush is like easy. Is I mean, it's easily the pass rush. Easily pass rush.
I would agree without pass rush, you have to have secondary. If you have a good pass rush, you almost don't need secondary. Kind of like you said.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
one
Yeah.
one works with the other. If you see it in the NFL all the time, Micah Parsons, who's now with the Green Bay Packers, that's a completely different team now that they did one trade. The hurries and the pressures are night and day. So
Yeah.
overall, guys, that is the end of our show, episode 4. Had a little bit longer episode today, but overall, I think we had some fun tangents. I think Tote Harris was definitely a great player on offense. Aaron Johnson on defense were phenomenal, lights out. But overall, super exciting week against Colorado. Again, it's in CU or at CU Boulder, Folsom Field. Anything to add, Jamari?
I would just say go out and support. If you go into the game, get crazy, show them how we do it. Good luck to the guys out there that's going to compete. And I just hope everybody has a fun and safe time. It's a lot of crazy stuff happening out in the world. So I just want people to just be safe, have fun at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, be safe. Yeah, we appreciate you guys so much. Please follow us on socials, shout us out. If you know anybody looking for a little bit more Mountain West or Wyoming content, send them our way. We love hanging out with you guys. And yeah, we will see you guys next week to chat a little bit about the CU Buffs and opening up Mountain West slate. Yeah, go Pokes.
Go
Let her buck.
Poke.